This is the Swarm and Shoot football show with me, Manny Matsakis, the head football coach at Defiance College. We feature Defiance College football and everything that influences our program. This show is brought to you by our friends at Big B Coffee right across campus on North Clinton Street. I'm actually having a cup right now, so everybody check it out on YouTube, and you can see the video of the cup and how delicious this beverage is. Get the finest coffee beverages, even tea, in Defiance, as well as great pastries, breakfast sandwiches to start your day off, and you can even get a pick-me-up like a lot of our coaching staff does in the afternoon. I'd also like to bring on board the maker of this fine apparel right here, and not just Nike, but we're talking about BSN Sports, all right? I'd like to bring on board our latest sponsor, BSN Sports, and Rob Held and his sales team are the professionals you need to get in touch with for all your sporting goods and apparel needs in Ohio. Not only do they work with high school and college sports teams, they also deliver outstanding apparel to businesses so they can brand themselves in a first-class manner. All right, welcome to this episode of the Swarm and Shoot football show. Today we have our special guest and interviewer, Lynn Groll. Lynn, how are you doing?
Good, Coach. How are you?
It is interesting times.
It sure is.
And I wanted to bring you on, as you will be doing a few things with us as we move forward. But I thought that through your insight and some of the things that we're seeing out there, we want to be able to address some changes that have been made here and throughout the country that would relate to Defiance College football. So It's all you.
Yeah. Obviously, your season got moved to the spring. Take me through that decision, Coach, and what happened with the Heartland Conference to come up with that decision.
Well, it just sort of came out of nowhere because for the longest time throughout the summer, we had some meetings, Zoom calls with the head coaches and the commissioner a couple times in there as well. And what we were planning on going full speed ahead, training camp August 10th, move-in dates, everything was set on campus, and then it was just a dramatic turn. And I think it was a trickle-down effect from what was happening around the country, and initially started with like the Ivy League saying, hey, we're going to play in the spring, and then others following suit at a variety of different levels. So a lot of small colleges made that decision around the same time, within 72 hours of when we did.
Yeah. Proponent of going to the spring to kind of save football in your mind?
Well, I've always been an advocate of football. I mean, having coached it and been in the business of football pretty much my whole career. And I think it is vital that we play. More important that from a Defiance College standpoint, that we develop the players we have. And if they're saying, and what I'm hearing a lot of this is, it's cost prohibitive for small colleges to test every week. And at this point, so I think we're hedging our bets, just my opinion, that things will change by the spring. So with that being said, I'm excited about it. But it is uncharted waters for the world of college football as we know it.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of how the spring season will look? Will you play just conference games? And maybe you don't know this yet. Will there be non-conference games? Has there been discussions on that at this point?
I think we're in the midst of it, and it's fluid at this point. I mean, I have heard things, not just from our league and others I talk to out there, about starting your first game, I'm hearing February 27th or March the 4th or 5th that weekend, one of those, playing, if you play 5 or less games, it's half of what your normal load of games are, then you could save a year of eligibility. So some people are going that way. I don't believe that from our conference standpoint, we want to play the game. So, I mean, minimum I see right now, I mean, there's one proposal out there, hey, let's play 5 in a round robin, and not everybody plays everybody and have a champion somehow. And that was brought up by one coach I saw out there. And then, but the more popular opinion is to play 7 games because there's 8 teams in our league, play everybody, deem a champion. Also the potential of a postseason bowl game against maybe another conference out there, like the Ohio Athletic Conference or the Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association up there that are local that might be pushing to the spring as well. So they'll be available, and I think they'd like to get it done by mid-April, before the regular season done by then, just so it doesn't conflict with baseball and softball and so forth as much as possible.
Take me through what you know about a non-playoff for at the Division III level, if you know, I guess.
I don't. I mean, I don't know what. There hasn't been a definitive thing from the NCAA saying that the championships are canceled. They just pushed it back. So it makes you sort of wonder, why are we pushing it back? Are they? I've heard from some coaches out there like, hey, maybe they're being less forward with, hey, we're canceling it to see if a bunch of schools are going to push to the spring and then maybe have football championships in May. So it could happen. I don't see a lot of people playing at the small college level for sure right this fall. There's very, very few small colleges that are going to play. So maybe that's what it is. But that's just hearsay through other coaches in the grapevine.
Yeah. At this point, you would be having your kids moving in, getting ready for fall camp. How much does that change now? Are they coming later? Take me through that aspect of it.
Yeah, originally they were going to players were going to come in 8th, 9th, 10th. Those days we had the squad all split up when they were going to report, and then you were allowed to start practicing on the 10th or so thereafter. When everything got pushed back, now we're looking at the 19th, somewhere around that, 19, 20, 21, around those dates of incoming students coming in on campus. I know that they all have to, at a lot of schools this is the case, hey, get your COVID test, and if you're negative, you can come on campus and get in your room and get things started. And I've heard of some schools that are saying, get that done. If you don't have it, we'll test you when you get here. So I've seen other schools that say that. So everyone's a little different based on their wherewithal, maybe their location. Do you have a hospital close? Do you have the ability to do this? So I think everyone's saying, get tested.
Yeah. And the logistics of this, because you have kids coming in from 20 plus states?
All over, yeah. Somewhere high teens, if not 20. Yeah. I haven't counted. Yeah. So I mean, some of it is, I think logistically, if they get it done in advance and whatever the date is that I can bring it in, we want to be able to bring them in then, because that next week is when school starts. So at the end of August, that's when school starts on that Tuesday. I think the 24th. 25th of August is when school starts. So somewhere in that ballpark, we want to get them in here. And then we're still looking at what does the fall look like? Because in our conference, the statement was we would have a robust fall. So define the word robust, then we'll know what it's looking like. In the meanwhile, I've been having meetings and talking to other coaches and our coaching staff and of the excitement of being able to bring such a quality freshman class in, and to have, as opposed to, hey, you got 3 weeks to get ready to play your first college football game. Now you got 6 months. Mm-hmm. All right. How much better are you going to be? Because I know the most dramatic improvement for any college athlete is that spring to the fall, spring of their freshman year to the fall of their sophomore year. That's the biggest improvement. So we're basically able to do that now. And that will give guys an understanding not just of what's going on X and O wise, knowing their position, bonding, a lot of good team chemistry type of things that you could do. Obviously socially distanced while you're doing them, but it gives us an opportunity, and I'm fired up about that.
Yeah, and you have over 100 kids that you feel like you're gonna have incoming this year? I mean, you have to be. I know you're enthused about this group you have coming in.
Well, 2 out of 3 players right now are going to be freshmen.
Yeah.
So where a year ago, yes, we were the youngest team in our conference, we would have been the youngest again this year, even because it would have been a lot of freshmen and sophomores. And, because we had a great retention piece, a lot of our guys came back, which that's exciting. But now we have an opportunity to really develop the guys coming in. And I can't imagine how much better they can get with proper training, and that's where Coach Shank and I are working out the details of what that's going to be like.
Yeah. What do you tell your seniors, your upperclassmen, where their normal season has been taken away from them? What do you kind of have to tell those kids through this chaos and everything that's going on?
Well, when they ask, and they have, it's like I say, look, you want to have the best senior season you could possibly have, right? Of course. And won't it be great that you can help, from a leadership standpoint, usher along some really quality new members of your team, and we can compete at potentially a better level than we would have in the fall. Now, understand, everybody is doing this. So it's not like, oh, we get to do it and everybody else gets nothing. But I think just the opportunity of, like, you guys can lead and you have more involvement in what that product is going to look like in the spring, I got pretty much a thumbs up across the board from our seniors that are excited about it. And remember, they missed a spring ball, all right? And they missed a lot of the weightlifting that goes into the spring. So now they can get recharged back up, and they've got, in essence, from when we get back all the way until Thanksgiving, when we go on to the break and everything goes online here, but they've got 12, 13 weeks there of training, which guys can look a lot different. I mean, I don't know. If I work out legitimately for 3 months, I'm looking different, and I know our players are realizing the benefit of that. So that's exciting for them and us.
Has there been discussions about eligibility? Maybe the seniors get another year in 2021. Has there been talk at the NCAA level, wherever that comes from?
I have heard yes through back channels, and I'm seeing a lot of it depending on how things wash out. That it could happen just like they did with baseball and softball from last spring. I guess my concern with that is I'm all for it, but I don't think you want to bank on it because, it's at this level, all scholarships are academic, and so forth. And so people are paying, to go to school here. So I don't know that it's worth them coming back just to play a season, but it might be. I mean, because some guys will say, hey, I want to work on my master's degree, and we've got great master's programs here. So that might work for them, and it could set them up for the future. But every young man is going to be in a different situation to make that decision. I just recall in the spring they were saying, oh, all these guys are going to come back. We'll see in a few weeks. I don't know how many are returning on those spring rosters, but I hope they do. Yeah. I hope they do. But as a parent myself, I would look at it and say, okay, what's best for my child? And if sports is it for them, and one coach brought this up in a conference call the other day. I thought it was brilliant. The thing about football, as opposed to any other sport, is when you're done playing it in college or high school, when you're done, you're done. Mm-hmm. You're not, hey, calling, you're 26 years old, calling Joe down the street, hey, let's go get our helmet and shoulder pads and go whack each other and play this game that we had such a passion for. There is none of that. It doesn't exist. Where you can pick up American Legion baseball to 40, I see 40, 50-year-old guys playing, summer league baseball, softball, basketball leagues. That's it. Football isn't that way. It is the only true collision sport out there. And because it's a collision sport, the body is not going to hold up as you get older. So it's not like golf where you can play, I've got, a father-in-law in his mid-70s. He's playing golf as much as he can. God bless him, but he's not going to play football.
Yeah.
So that's why I think there's been some hesitancy on how we handle football. And everyone keeps saying it's the money, and I get it, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah. Going back to the spring, scrimmages, do you foresee scrimmages happen? Because you usually get 2 of those each season. And maybe it hasn't been discussed yet.
I don't see that.
You'll just jump right into the games.
Well, yeah, because what I'm hearing is like we got to find out what our re-socialization is going to be in January when the players come back. So how many weeks of training camp do we get, and how does it look? You would think 3 weeks would be fine, but it might not be fine if they say, well, you got to spend 2 weeks where you're in 1 coach to 9 player mode and you can't really practice football. You're just getting them around. If that's what we do, then you're going to need 5-6 weeks just to be able to get to a point where you can actually practice the game other than just drills. And if they want, to put a quality product on the field. So I think that's there. I have heard with the word robust that, and I think we'll know this pretty soon in the next week or two, that they're talking about having exhibitions and being able to put helmets and shoulder pads on in the fall, those kind of things. And there is some type of testing protocol that is less than the whole team that may transpire with that. So that would be great, and you could keep improving if you can do that. But right now, like Division III football has never been able to put helmets and shoulder pads on in the spring, which, I've heard it called a variety of things, not all very complimentary toward the game, because a lot of high schools in the South, they all get to put helmets and shoulder pads on. These are college kids, and they're not. But that's a whole other point. But they realize from a retention standpoint and a developmental standpoint, it would be important that these football players are able to do some of that this fall. So if that's the case, then we'll roll down that path and start to plan it out.
I want to ask you about that because I know Bluffton came out and said that they're thinking about doing some regional games and things like that they have said. Do you foresee something like that maybe happening around the nation, I guess?
I do think some will do it. Some of it is going to be dependent on, it's all going to be dependent on your administration and not conference-wide. It's going to be school by school what they choose to do. So if Bluffton is saying, hey, and I've spoken to Aaron Krebs, their head coach. We had on the phone over an hour last week just talking, and how you dealing with this and just supporting and all that. And just to, because it's interesting. A lot of people think like we're supposed to hate each other, But I like him. I like Aaron. I like coaches now. There's not a coach out there at anywhere that I dislike, because you're working. You're not doing this for the money. You're doing it for the passion, and it's a great game. So if he's doing it, and I respect his coaches, and I think that's why that game is such a great game for us. And he's saying, yeah, if we can, we're talking that we'd like to play some. They would be considered exhibition games in the fall. He goes, hey, we'd love to have one with you guys. That was just him off the cuff saying, could it work? I'm like, hey, it's based on what our administration says, and you get to do what your administration says. And I've heard schools in OAC and MIAA very different in different conferences. Mm-hmm. That is what I'm noticing. It's like, oh my goodness. There are people stepping up in different ways to do things differently because they realize the importance of intercollegiate athletics to a small college, especially a Midwestern small college like us that is heavily populated with football players on the roster, and soccer and volleyball, all the other sports you want to let them play.
Yeah. With 2/3 of your team being so young, would it be beneficial to have those exhibition games, or is it better to have more practice time in your mind from a coaching standpoint?
I think anytime you can put them in that situation where they're competing is really good. I would love to have the opportunity, as long as it's safe for them to do so. You never want to throw caution to the wind on some of this stuff. You want to make sure you're safe. And a lot of the numbers I'm seeing out there for that age group is very safe. But I'm not a doctor. I'm not an athletic trainer. So I'm going to have to defer to our medical experts out there. And we'll handle things appropriately. But if it's just to develop a football player, the games are critical, or exhibitions, or even do what the NFL does. Hey, let's practice together. You know, I could see that working out, because if I just look at, I would lean toward, hey, let's say 70-mile radius of where we are, there's enough colleges out there that might want to do this. You know, I'm not saying we're going to go scrimmage Bowling Green or Toledo, you know, because they can't. Their rules say they can't do that. But there's other small colleges that would love that opportunity if their administration so chooses to make that of importance. And but those guys, you know, your presidents, ADs, these guys, they've got some tough decisions to make. And you know, as football coaches, I'm here to support that. And if they want to know, hey, what's it look like, I'm here to answer from my vantage point what I'm hearing.
Yeah. What do you get? 114 practices? Is that right?
That's the latest legislation. The NCAA is saying for all sports, for Division III, you get 114 opportunities to have practice/games. Anything you do. It's even weightlifting if you want to mandate it as part of your program. So what it looks like is something like this. Let's say we play 7 games.
I was going to ask you, because you may only play 7 games
in
next spring. You only may play 5.
Yeah,
you're going
you don't know yet.
You're going to have some days possibly this fall, is what I'm getting at.
Without question, it could easily happen, and it's designed right now to move in that direction. But once again, I preclude this with every college has to make their own decision. But the rules are stating that you have 114 days to have those types of activities with your team, which to me is so exciting. But if you go into the spring and say, all right, we're going to play 7 games, right? They don't count postseason. So if you have an 8th game that's a bowl game, that doesn't count in the 114. Postseason never counts. And in fact, if we decided to bring them all in next week and have training camp, that wouldn't count either, because that's preseason, postseason don't count. So 114, my understanding is, as you get going when school starts or your season starts, all right? So what's happening with that 114 days is, if you have 7 games in the spring and you say, all right, you have to give them 1 day off, all right? So 6 weeks of 7 games, all right? So low 40s, you know, you're talking 42.
42.
All right. And then you say, all right, for 3 weeks or a month prior, make it a month. All right. You can go 6 days a week. All right. So you take 4 times 6, 24, 24 plus 42. All right. So you're looking at what? 66 right there. Right. Yeah. 42, 24, 66. Yeah. You got 66 opportunities in the spring. Okay. So 66 minus 114.
48.
Yeah. So you got 48 opportunities in the fall that you can utilize, knowing that come Thanksgiving, that week they're leaving anyway. So you got about 12 weeks to get those in. So, wow, what an opportunity. And I've even seen some, this is the second program I've heard that's doing this. I mean, their roster size is so big, so they're splitting it in half, and they'll never go against each other. Mm-hmm. All right, so they're getting double the days. It's like, here's a varsity team, here's a JV team, or here's a team and a B team, here's a purple team and a gold team, whatever you want to call it. It's 114 days, and I've heard some schools wanting to do that. So now it's like they've got enough time to get everything in, and the schools doing that are looking at it from a retention and development standpoint, and that's a really smart thing to do. But you have to have enough coaches to coach that many practices.
True.
You know, and you just develop them that way. So if you keep them apart, you could get more out of it. That's some of the creativity I've seen by other programs out there that they're working through these parameters. And I've even heard a couple that are bringing them to training camp just to get the extra days.
Wow.
So, but it all depends on the school and how you want to lay it all out. Personally, I like the idea that we're doing. What our administration has set up, I think, is fantastic. And we can bring them in, and they can get really good in the classroom, which, you know, football is so demanding from a time perspective in a young man's schedule. It's 18 years old, coming in right out of high school, and now he's thrown into college and college football and academics. It's like, oh, we could get the beauty of it, I think, is the mentorship that we can have from an academic standpoint can set these guys up.
Get them acclimated a little bit more to the
lifetime of success. I mean, that's in the end, that's why I coach. It's to see what these guys do when they're done playing for us down the road, you know, or, you know, they great teachers, coaches, you know, doctors, lawyers, whatever they want to do, you know. And I think this is a good opportunity where some kids fail. Most kids fail in the first 6 weeks of college. That's when it happens.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back to people you know. Hey, Johnny went to school and he's back. It's Halloween. He's back.
Yeah.
It happens a lot, you know. So here's an opportunity to save and build on the strengths that these young men have this fall.
Yeah. Hypothetical. Let's say the administration here at Defiance College says you can go this fall. You can do what you want. How would you kind of foresee practices look? Would it be normal like you would see any fall, do you feel like?
No, totally different.
Totally
different. I mean, if it all worked out and we could have some of those exhibition type events or practices with other local teams, I'd take advantage of that once we've got players onboarded to what we're doing on each side of the ball. I see it becoming like, okay, each position would have a school, so to speak, to start off. So it's like, hey, quarterback school, and you're just working with the quarterbacks. Here's receiver school, here's D-line school, here's DB school, you know. And the only time guys are together is if you're doing some special teams work, things like that. So I would start them off in small groups from a safety perspective, and just when you have so many young guys, just teaching them, you can't assume that they know how to do things properly, tackle, you know, use their leverage and so forth. And so I would start that way. So I would almost have it subsets of the big picture for maybe a month. And then you start to get into it where you're able to develop them into their groups. And then, you know, you're working the guys in the trenches against each other, guys in a 7-on-7 against each other, and develop them that way. And then ultimately, as you're doing all this, is you're making great gains in their training, weight room type things, functional training, those types of things that they can benefit themselves and be really good football players. So that's how. I mean, I've got a sketch of it right now. You know, okay. Chris Shank's our strength coach, and we'll sit down with our staff here as we have, you know, in the coming weeks. And when we know the rules, then we'll play by the rules and find the best way to make these guys better.
Yeah. And this almost has to be exciting for you as coaches because you're going to really get to coach these guys. Because you're not going to you don't have a lot of veterans out there that you can just say, hey, throw the balls out there and let them go. You're going to be able to do some coaching and form these guys for down the road.
No question. I know for us with our numbers being, because last year we had 81 guys on the roster when we got going in training camp. This year we're expecting anywhere from 140 plus. And if that is the case, you know, we're looking to get some guys out there with some experience to come and help us in a volunteer perspective so we can teach them, hey, here, help us out with these drills, you know, because if you got 30, I don't know, by any position, let's say you got 20 receivers or whatever it is, here's inside guys, outside guys, but here's one coach trying to handle 25 guys or whatever. Well, you need help. So we want to get some people volunteered and through the system where they background check them and all that. Is that's an idea I'm seeing a lot of schools want to do early so those guys can get coached. And there's some quality guys out there that love the game that might be available to come for practices. You know, coaches that, I mean, great high school coaches or people in town that just love the Yellow Jackets, and there's a whole lot of that.
Yeah, and possibly may need more coaches with social distancing. Yeah. If you only can have, 10 per group. I know that has happened at the high school level throughout the summer at schools. You're going to need more coaches.
Yeah, and there's a lot more hours to it, and there are so many things. I know when we hit another podcast here, probably in the near future about, okay, here's the rules, here's what you got to do, then that way, we can come up with more specific plans that in the end are designed to benefit the student athlete. And that's why we're here, is like, let's get them here. Every one of these guys are really good people. So it's like, hey, you don't know. And I think probably the best, and it's not even a sales pitch, the best thing I would be thinking if I am a young 17, 18-year-old young man with this opportunity ahead of you is I'm thinking, what an opportunity to improve. And if you just keep improving, you never know. Because I can, take me a few fingers on my hands to count all the guys that when they came in as freshmen that ended up being great players at the college where I coached, or even what you would consider fantastic, even become all pros in the National Football League, were guys that I couldn't have guessed it their freshman year in August. But they were guys that improved, kept getting better. You have a jump start over guys like Wes Welker, Danny Amendola. Some of these young guys that when they were freshmen, they were like regular, college students, and they became fantastic football players. And I, haven't been fortunate to see that and many other at every position. So I think it's exciting, and I can't wait to get all these guys on campus and do it right. As soon as we know the rules, we'll do it right and we'll take care of it. It's exciting.
What has been kind of the feedback that your assistants talking to these guys that are coming in, and you as well? What has been kind of the feedback? Disappointed that they aren't going to have games this fall? Take me through maybe kind of the mindset of the kids.
I didn't see any disappointment. I saw more of like, hey, this is great, because last year, we didn't know what players could play until we got into the middle of October. You're just, because you got JV games going on, you're trying to filter through the roster. He goes, every coach on our staff was like, I'm excited because I get to see these guys and help them develop, and I can make better decisions in the spring of who's going to play and how much and so forth. I didn't say anything but like, oh my goodness, what an opportunity to do this. And that's where we're sitting. So let's make it happen.
Yeah. Last thing for you, I'll ask you about, because I know I've talked to a lot of high school kids, and they're concerned if they don't have a season, how they get recruited for next year. The rising seniors, kids like that we don't know if there's going to be a high school season around the states, and a lot of them have pushed it to spring or pushed it back or whatever. What do you say to those kids? You can still get film on them, obviously.
We can get film on them. I would say this. If they play, great. I hope they at least play in the spring, but it's going to be significantly more difficult to get to a variety of colleges they might think that they can play at. But I think the most important thing is do what your coach tells you to do. Be at all the training sessions, because what's going to make our decisions, and I can speak for pretty much from our level all the way up to mid-majors in the MAC, that we're going to listen to the high school coach. And if they tell us, hey, this guy has got it, and we have had a good relationship with him, then that's who we're listening to. Even without film, I've taken guys that made it to the National Football League out of small colleges off of what a coach told me and not the film. So it's more important you impress your coach and you do the little things. And you can be a guy that a program can count on, and you can make a difference. That's how I would look at it. I look at it as an opportunity. Train hard, do everything you can, get your grades even better, do all those things, and then reach out, email programs you want to be involved in, and understand it's just like sales. You're going to get turned down a bunch, but it only takes one program to believe in you to make a difference in your life. And we may be that program for you, so I would be even more diligent on my ability to sell myself and train hard. And if your coach says you're good, pretty good chance you're good.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Coach.
Yeah,
great insight.
All right.
Keep us updated on what's going on with the program. It's exciting to hear what's going on with all your newcomers and the momentum that you're building here for the program. So thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Lynn. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode of the Swarm and Shoot Football Show. If you're listening to this podcast, make sure to subscribe in iTunes, give us a rating, comment on the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell in the top corner there so you can get notifications when we release the next show. Feel free to comment below on a specific show, and we'll answer those questions as we need to. If you'd like to step up to the next level and get all kinds of updates updates, go to our website, swarmandshoot.com, where you'll get up-to-date alerts on all of our podcasts. You'll have the audio on there. There's actually a video player where you can scroll through each and every episode that we have of the podcast from the YouTube version. So you never really have to leave the site. You'll also see some features on various players, our coaching staff bios, all types of things going on in our program, when our golf scramble is, different fundraisers we do, just insights for you that take you to that next level, which is what swarmandshoot.com will do for you. Take a minute and subscribe with your email. When you log on, there'll actually probably be a pop-up about 6 seconds into it, and it gives you a chance to go in, and that will put you into our email database. So every time we update, you get an email knowing that we're basically set to go on the next episode of the podcast or any news that's coming out. Appreciate you supporting the program, and look forward to a wonderful season.